Hi, everyone. Steve Adubato, Mary Gamba. This is Lessons in Leadership. Mary, I don't like when people give Stephen A. Smith on ESPN constantly, when he does First Take, talks about what he's wearing. And I don't like doing that. But this is one of the first times I've worn an April, who is not just a great makeup artist, but knows about color and design. She said it was okay to wear a pinstripe tie with a pinstripe jacket. Or she said, is it too much? You say?
I say it is not too much. I just have to say I'm so proud of you of stepping outside of your comfort zone. And what is it? Life begins at the edge of your comfort zone, something along those lines. You have that prop and you are proving it with your ties and your wardrobe. So it's okay. We can acknowledge that.
I'm sorry for interrupting. April, in the other studio, there's a little sign on that says life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I just want to prove I have that prop. Could you get that, please?
Oh, geez. On live TV. Here we go.
But Mary, we have something way more important than my props. There's some other props in there. Pull them in. Other than a baseball, football, and a basketball, all those things. A little tiny basketball for people who play
baby basketball.
And back in the day in Newark, where I grew up, we called this biddy ball. You ever hear of biddy ball, Scarlett? Okay, you're too young. So biddy ball was you play with a smaller ball and a shorter basket, so the guys in my neighborhood could dunk at 8 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave that alone.
That is fascinating. We are captivating our audience right about now.
What's the Woody Harrelson, Scarlett, Elvin, what's the name of the Woody Harrelson movie that I'm thinking of? 8-foot basket so he could dunk.
White Men Can't Jump.
Why are you saying that? No, that was the name of the movie. And who did he star with? Who did he star with? Who had some financial problems later, but he was great in it. Who was it?
Wesley Snipes.
Okay, and who was the girlfriend of Woody Harrelson, who was absolutely fabulous?
Rosie Perez.
What do you do? Just stay home and watch movies all day?
I love our voices that just come out of nowhere. It's great. Rosie Perez, Woody Harrelson.
That's it. So, Mary, hold on one second. Mary, what's that prop say?
It says, life begins, right, at the end of your comfort zone. Something along those lines.
That's one of my favorite props. Mary, let's tee this up. This is an interview that we did with Tom Hughes, who's the CEO and publisher of ROI, that's Return on Information NJ, one of our longtime media partners. I did this interview with Tom. Mary, you saw the interview that I did. A lot about media. By the way, Tom said that we talked about none of the things we agreed to talk about beforehand. Truth is, we don't tell people. But I just went with what was interesting to me. What was interesting to you after you saw it?
Yeah, well, Tom was half right. I did provide the questions to Tom. We had talked about some of these key areas, but of course, as in life, I always say it's conversational. These will be a jumping off point. And I actually was taking notes during the segment because, again, we're talking about innovation. We're talking about what the media is doing to innovate. You both talk about the difference between consuming our information both on paper and print and also on our tablets, on our phones. I don't consume news anywhere else except for my phone, which is kind of scary. But if you're going to the right places, oh, here Steve goes. He still gets the newspaper.
Am I the only person left that still gets the Star Ledger?
You're probably, yeah. My Bill still gets the New York Times and the Post every day. The Star Ledger, not so much.
New York Times. So are you saying, Mary? So hold on, because we did talk about this with Tom. He said their audience at ROI is getting younger. Do you think that sooner or later, those of us who are more mature, that when we stop reading newspapers, there'll be no newspapers? Are you saying that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be, it'll be one of those things where our kids, well, I would say our grandkids' kids will probably go to a library or go to a museum and see a newspaper and be like, and I often joke with Bill, again, we were talking about him reading the paper. He'll like shout for, right? Yeah, Bill's my husband. And every day he slots out, he has his coffee and his paper at the dining room table and he'd be like, hey, Mary, did you hear about this? And I'm like, yeah, I heard about it yesterday, because by the time it gets printed in the paper, it's already been out on Twitter. Well, not Twitter, X. It's been out on social media, et cetera. So it's just fascinating to me. The papers are definitely now publications, right? Magazines, editorials, things like that. But getting the news from newspapers is done.
Okay, so to disclose a couple things, Mary and I collaborate on a column every month in New Jersey Monthly magazine. Now, and we always make sure, by the way, as we're doing this, that I have an article on Black History Month featuring the great leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King. Please check it out. We're going to talk about him in another segment. But Mary, I want to say this. You're saying because we write a timeless evergreen, like we like to call it, I will go back to Tom Hughes in a second, that it doesn't matter with a magazine as much. And particularly when it comes to sports, I'm a Seton Hall basketball fan. Seton Hall, one of our longtime sponsors. I'll watch a game, see everything online that night and the next morning, and 2 days later in the print side, they're telling us about that game.
Yeah,
that game happened 2 days ago.
It's unnecessary. And that's the thing. It's going to change the face of, media and what we're reading. It's going to be different. It's definitely going to be, it has to be.
Well, I would say this. There is still a place for newspapers. It's a question of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because to me, I still like the cup of coffee newspapers. Mary sees everything's marked out. You can't, in my mind, digital, great, quick, see it on the phone, fine. I like marking stuff up.
Printing the internet.
What?
Printing the internet. You like to print the internet.
Mary, stop accusing me of killing trees. We've been doing that for 24 years we've been together. But Tom Hughes, CEO, publisher of ROI-NJ, a great, compelling interview about the media in 2024, media leadership. We're now joined by our media colleague, Tom Hughes, who's CEO, publisher, ROI-NJ. We'll put up the website so people can find out more about ROI-NJ. Good to see you, Tom.
Hey, good to see you, Steve. Thanks so much. And thanks to Mary, too, and the Lessons in Leadership crew for having me today.
Yeah, Mary Gamba, my colleague. We're also going to be airing this with our sister series, One-on-One. And here's what I want to talk about. First, describe what ROI is, and then I'm going to ask you about media leadership in 2024, please.
Yeah, sure. So ROI is an acronym for Return on Information New Jersey, right? So quite simply, we're a media company that informs and connects businesses in New Jersey through digital and print platforms, as well as live and virtual events. 7 years here, we hit the ground running, and we're enjoying covering the Garden State business.
Along those lines, Tom, in all seriousness about media leadership, I'm obsessed by what leadership really is, what it's not, how to get better at it, the mistakes we make as leaders. But media leadership in 2024, how much of it is about constantly trying to find ways to be relevant to your audience outside of what you may have thought, I don't want to answer my own question, even 2 or 3 years ago?
Well, look, you know what? It's always the responsibility of leadership to champion innovative systems, platforms, technologies, right? To stay ahead of the competition, beat the competition, or just in line with the competition, and also better the quality of the final product for its readers, right? So I do this by recognizing applications of new technology simply. What systems do we have? How can we improve them? And then working through how those changes might play out in both implementation and the aftermath. So at the end of the day, we sort of look at and say, okay, we have our internal customers, right? How has what we've done impacted our internal customers, our staff members, right? Are those changes better, different? How has that worked? And then we also look at our external users, readers, advertisers, and the impact it has had on our audience. Are the advertisers enjoying the new ad space, right? That's on the new website. Are our readers more engaging? Are they spending more time on pages? So, I mean, the innovation is always ongoing, but for us, we try to be very systematic on how we're doing that.
Along those lines, Tom, in terms of information that people consume, and people consume information in so many different ways. Our colleague Neil Shapiro, the president and CEO of the WNET, the 13 group, WNET group, we talk about this all the time, that people are consuming information in a bifurcated fashion. I mean, it's all over the place. That being said, is print, from your point of view, is print dead?
It's interesting that you say that, right? Because we are print and digital.
That's why I'm asking.
Newsletters, right. So we still have a robust print distribution. We are seeing that we have a growing audience on the digital end, but the combination seems to work well for us. It is would I say that it's challenged? Yes, because the way that our audience is receiving the news is different too. They're looking more online, right?
And the audience is changing. Is it getting younger, and is younger equal more digital?
Well, it's interesting, right? So you bring up a very, very valid point, right? The younger audience is a more digital audience, right? And we're skewing. So our audience rested in the 45 to 58-year-old category. The last 2 years, we have taken a different approach with our digital platform, and we're pulling in a 35-year-old audience. So within about 18 months or post-COVID, we've made some changes. So the audience, our audience is our next generation that we actively go after. And yes, actually, there's been some changes, a younger demographic coming in.
Curious about this. We have a series that the graphic will come up right now. It's called Democracy in Danger. And it's looking at, it's not even political, to be really candid with you, Tom. And we talked with your colleague, Tom Bergeron, about this as well.
Yeah, and I've got to tell you, everybody wants to talk to the guys on the editorial side. Nobody wants to talk to the business guys, right? And that's what it is.
Hey, ready for this, Tom? Some of us are on the editorial side and on the business
I
side.
know, I see that. So you're that sought after hybrid.
Yeah, well, the hybrid isn't so neat and clean, because I got to tell you, the separation of church and state, the editorial and the business, sometimes it's like, how do we keep the underwriter sponsors who think sometimes, hey, no, content's not yours. Your branding's up, content not yours. But do you just, it's interesting, because I was going to go one place. You brought up something way more interesting than that. How do you separate, when I say church and state, it's a longstanding way of describing the difference between the business side of a media organization, advertising, et cetera, sponsorship, and the editorial, which is pristine and purely journalistic. Is there a cement wall, in your view, Tom, between church and state?
Well, it's interesting. In my view, there is, but I do see that wall blurring. So we always said, everybody wants to talk to the editorial folks, right? No one wants to talk to the business folks, because the editorial folks are receiving information, and that information is going to be put on a digital page or a print page. What I'm doing on the business side, and my team, we're looking to put our hand in somebody's pocket to get the sponsorship so we can continue doing the editorial piece, right?
No money, no mission.
Exactly. There you go. So I do see some of the blurring, because we have our sponsors who want sponsored content. Right. So we label that as sponsored content.
And by the way, P.S. full disclosure, if you go on, we are sponsored content at ROI. It says sponsored content. And explain to folks why that's different than straight editorial content.
Well, because editorial content is achieved through a editor's story from a contributing partner. Sponsored content is written, could be in conjunction with the sponsor, the individual, and it is not free-flowing from the editorial side. So we like to create that separation from regular edit to sponsored content, or we call it to partner content as well.
But think about what Tom's saying. Our biggest and most significant partners are in public broadcasting. Our largest audience by far is in public broadcasting. Again, to our friends at WNET, NJ, PBS, and to the south, WHYY. To a lesser extent, but we're still there as well. But here's why I'm mentioning this. There are folks who may not find us on public broadcasting, but may be consumers of ROI who see us there. And that's why my point here is a long-winded way of getting to, we don't have the luxury of saying only this platform, only that platform. We have to be on multiple platforms to have the most number of people consuming what we do. Please, Tom.
Yes, sure. So, and that brings up a good point, because we say ROI is New Jersey's business source, right? Well, the reality of it is, yes, it's New Jersey, but we are in every state and several countries in the world now, because our platform is, yes, it's print, right? But it's digital. So when you look at the statistics on that and the analytics, it's just amazes me where and who we're reaching and where they are.
Complex stuff, and media leadership, media in 2024. And again, the next time we'll actually talk to your colleague, Tom Bergeron, on the editorial side about our series, Democracy in Danger. And I want to thank our longtime media partner, Tom Hughes, CEO and publisher of ROI-NJ. Their website has been up. Find out more about them. Tom, all the best. Take care, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. This edition of Lessons in Leadership is made possible by the Buccino Leadership Institute at Seton Hall University, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 825, the North Ward Center, the New Jersey Sharing Network, the Helix, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Fedway Associates Inc., Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Veolia, Resourcing the World, Choose New Jersey, and Seton Hall University, showing the world what great minds can do since 1856.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIA-NJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media.
Great drive fuels the leaders of tomorrow and today. Great vision paves the way for a brighter future. Great ambition goes places, moving onward and upward. Great empathy finds strength in kindness and in each other, working together to create something bigger than they ever imagined. Great minds can change the world, and great minds start at Seton Hall.
Lessons in Leadership would like to thank our newest sponsors who make our programming possible, including the Helix, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. We are honored to be joined by Erika Irish Brown, who is Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer and Global Head of Talent at Citi. Erika, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be here today.
Our honor. Now, I have to fully disclose that you have been together with our great audio engineer, the greatest audio engineer ever, Frank Brown. You've been hanging out for a while together?
Yes, we've been married for 20 years this year.
That is awesome. We'll talk about Frank behind his back in just a bit. So describe your role at Citi.
So at Citi, I lead diversity, equity, and inclusion for the firm globally. So I think about how we recruit, retain, and develop the best talent. I also lead talent management. So when we think about talent development, how we assess talent, coach talent, how we identify successors for senior leadership for the firm, that's work that my team does as well.
You know, before Mary jumps in, Mary and I have this conversation all the time. Recruitment of talented people is something we deal with all the time. But the retention of them is an interesting question because, and there's no formula for this, but you want to pay competitively, you want to create a positive culture and work environment, you want to be flexible, but help everyone understand, Erika, that's no guarantee they're going to stay.
No, it's not. I mean, people want to feel valued. They want to feel like they're in a work culture where they belong. They also want to know that they have the same opportunities to be successful as anyone else, as long as they put in the work and they are doing well. So I think as leaders, we have to make sure that we challenge our teams, give them stretch assignments, ensure that they have career mobility at the firm so they don't look to go somewhere else, and absolutely compensate them fairly, as you said.
But as Mary jumps in, one of the things we learned, Erika, is you can do all those things. And there are things going on in people's lives, their personal lives, their family lives, they're dealing with parents, children, their own situation, their own dreams. We had one of our greatest team members leave crying as she was leaving, loved who we were and what we did and her role with us, but wanted to do something else in her life. And we couldn't compete with that, nor should we. Mary, pick it up from there.
Yeah, definitely. Erika, what have you found has changed? Excuse me?
I want to be clear. I haven't gotten over that.
Oh, no, I don't think I'm ever going to get over that, Steve. We've had, so Erika and our audience knows this, Steve and I will be celebrating our 24-year work anniversary this June. So it's been a very long run. And out of all the people that have come and gone, as any organization deals with that, that is one, that definitely hurt the most. So you know who you are if you're watching right now. We miss you. So Erika, one way that I would love, one topic I would love to jump into with you a little bit about is post the pandemic, so much has changed. There are now competing organizations. There are who's hybrid, who is, return to full, in the office. What have you found to be the greatest ask, if you will, of the team? You talked a little bit about your role there and making sure that you're really listening to your team. What have you found to be if there is one, the one or two most important qualities, if you will, for when you're hiring new people? What are they looking for, most importantly, after the pandemic?
I think people are looking for some of the same things we talked about when we talked about retention. People want to be challenged. They want to have rewarding careers. They want to do work that matters, and they want to be compensated accordingly. I
Got it.
think,
So, and not to interrupt you, so it really hasn't changed then post-pandemic. Are you saying then it's about the same then? Was there anything, more people wanting to work from home or being home with their children, things like that that you found?
Yeah, absolutely. The pandemic showed us that you can be successful working remotely as well as in hybrid situations. And you have a whole generation. Gen Z came into the workforce remotely, but people also have to realize the value of being in the office. So working in a hybrid fashion to me is optimal because you have the benefits of getting to know the team, working together in the office, understanding the work culture, also creating working relationships and the apprenticeships that are necessary for our junior talent to be successful, but at the same time having the necessary flexibility to integrate both work and life. So we did learn that we can do that during the pandemic.
I'm going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in a second, but real quick, you talk about home life and work, and you triggered something because your husband, partner, Frank Brown, and I have known each other for 30 years, worked together, and he is literally the best of the best. And you know that, and not just, he's just a great person, great leader, and not to mention his technical skills and production. Question, with all your challenges professionally, with all of Frank's challenges, and Frank, feel free to come on because then we'll come back to Erika and we'll get rid of you in a second. Frank, actually, could you come on if you don't mind? Because I'm going to ask a serious question. My wife, Jennifer, who is a professional, she stages homes in real estate, homes for sale and for selling of homes. And we're constantly trying to figure out schedules. We're constantly trying to deal with our children's issues. How do you and Frank balance your professional and personal responsibilities as parents and as partners, please? And then I'll have Frank jump in.
Well, I never use the word balance because that implies 50-50. So I talk about work and life integration. I think communication is key, and we communicate early and often. We have a family calendar that's color coded. So everybody has a color in the calendar. Everything's calendared in advance. And we certainly review the calendar every weekend as we go into the week. So planning is key. I also think you have to figure out as parents, where do you have to be and when, what's important and what you prioritize. And we also take turns at times, especially having 3 sons as we do. Sometimes we have to divide and conquer.
And Frank, how old are your sons?
16, 17, and 25.
Well, Frank, jump in here. For you as a top level professional in the field and Erika doing what she does in the corporate world, how do you see your role as, it's interesting, who's the leader / CEO of the house?
No, I mean, Erika for sure. I take, I know it's such a cliche often, but the organizational aspects really come from her. I'm kind of a lieutenant at the same, at the end of the day. And, she conferred, we talk often about what needs to get done. She just doesn't bark out orders. I won't say that, but we have to talk, figure out who's going to do what, when, who can get there before the other, or we have to divide and conquer, get this one to this game. Well, luckily Evan's driving now. So that's a wonderful thing right there. So that helps a lot with getting the 2 younger ones to where they have to be. He takes them, and Frank has his own life. He's the 25-year-old. So, he works and his schedule's different, but we talk, and once again, communication during the day, it's harder because she has a much more rigorous schedule than I, in most cases, unless I'm doing a very long concert or something like that. Then my flexibility, I'm out of the game 100% because my days are going to be extra long. Her days, every day is extra long.
Erika, let me ask you this, and I don't want to be self-serving, but I will. So with Frank, when he talks to you about our operation, how great a leader does he say I am?
You know what, Steve? I actually,
I'm joking, Eric.
No, listen,
I have a real story about this though.
listen, Steve.
No, I really, I want to say this, and I hope that this becomes part of what is aired. The mutual respect that you two have for each other, the way that you clearly regard my husband when you reference him in previous shows and
He
when you
knows.
ask for his opinion on air, it shows that you are an inclusive leader. It shows the relationship that you have. I know that he trusts you, and creating trust in a working relationship is very important. And that's what leadership is all about. So actually, I admire the working relationship that you have and many of the traits that we try to instill in our leaders as inclusive leaders you embody.
Well, we can end the program on that note.
That was incredible.
And I hate when people do the Mutual Admiration Society on the air. I really do. But for Frank, and because it's often phony and fake and what you think you need to say, for Frank and I, this is from day one. So, hey, Frank, listen, thank you for everything. Do you mind if we finish the interview with her? You mind? Okay. Thanks, Frank. So diversity, equity, inclusion, and recruiting, retaining the best talent. Make the connection for us, please.
I lead on both diversity, equity, inclusion, and
Yes.
talent management globally. And I think that that is the perfect combination because there's really a nexus between the two, right? And if you really create a diverse workforce, if you're pulling talent from the most diverse pools available, then you're getting the best talent. And if you're creating an environment where people feel is equitable, that they can be successful, that they're engaged, that they belong, that they're included, then they're giving the firm their all. And therefore, you're getting the creativity, the innovation, the products that you need to create for the communities, customers, and clients that you serve. So it's really a business imperative. And for a firm like my firm in the banking industry, where, you know, we're a financial services firm, our assets are our people as much as it is the deposits and financial products that we have. And when your people feel valued and when you have the right people in the right roles and that they know that they have a future and they're being developed and engaged, you know, then that's how you're creating the bottom line results for your company and your shareholders.
Erika, Mary and I have been wanting to have you on for a while, and you've exceeded our expectations as an engaging, interesting, compelling leader who has an incredibly challenging professional and personal life, and rewarding as well. So I just want to thank you for joining us on Lessons in Leadership. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mary, just remember what was said. That's all I'm going to say.
I will. I love this.
See you next time on Lessons in Leadership. This edition of Lessons in Leadership is made possible by the Buccino Leadership Institute at Seton Hall University, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 825, the North Ward Center, the New Jersey Sharing Network, the Helix, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Fedway Associates Inc., Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Veolia, Resourcing the World, Choose New Jersey, and Seton Hall University, showing the world what great minds can do since 1856.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media.
Great drive fuels the leaders of tomorrow and today. Great vision paves the way for a brighter future. Great ambition goes places, moving onward and upward. Great empathy finds strength in kindness and in each other, working together to create something bigger than they ever imagined. Great minds can change the world, and great minds start at Seton Hall.